That large American bank started like that. Anyone knows who I'm talking about? Sort of not able to say, but the bank by now cramped up its league tables, changed its business model from moving boxes to moving money, and is by now the best capitalized bank in the US. So why does this big, massive bank in the US turn to a small Swiss startup for help? That's the story I want to talk about in the next couple of minutes. What we do at Scurry is effectively this. We turn meaningless data into something valuable. Because one of the most overlooked facts of all that talk about data is actually, in my view, the following. Not only that it grows exponentially, but 95% of all data ever created is touched once and never again. That's about the same like you would buy a car for your company, drive it from the car dealership back into your garage, and drop the key, and never use it again. CFOs have been fired for less. But that's exactly the way we deal with data. So we leave a lot of value out in the wild that is not touched. Why do we do that? And that's one of the core missions we do believe is of value to pursue. It's to change that cost of value, cost versus value equation of data. And especially to do that with an application that helps you turn this data into insights. Now, what do I talk about? Many people here talk about insights and data. We focus on a very particular niche, and I'd like to quickly introduce that. What we do today is we have a solution that does three things. We call that service insights, customer insights, and risk insights. To understand what we do there, I focus only today on the middle piece, that's the customer insights piece, sales insights piece. What do I talk with that? What do I mean with that? Data today is often understood to be of numerical, schema-full value. In the easiest of things, data is what you can put into an Excel and analyze. Excel is still the most massively used BI tool of all times. I don't know if anyone of SAS or IBM or so is sitting here selling all these lovely solutions. You have just no chance against Excel. MS still rules the world in BI. Now, Excel is a wonderful tool because it allows you to analyze 20% of all that data. That's the structured piece, the numeric piece. And you can do many lovely things with that. You can, as an example, start to compute that, and out of that you can start to derive all types of things like date, time, and get insights from that. We saw a wonderful example this morning about the sales figures from my colleagues at SDS. Now, what do? We focus on all the rest. That's the 80% of data that has no structure. Well, we humans can read it. It might be text. But I have not seen any Excel where you simply paste a bit of text and you can form a sum above that text. Or has anyone of you? I haven't. Now, this is exactly what we focus on. So how do we do that? We do that in a number of components. We take this data, and in a very simplified world, we start to text analyze that. There are many solutions out there that do this, no doubt. As an example, identifying which year it is done, that there are people in there, that there are locations in there, and all that. Obviously, given the small amount of time I have, I go not into every detail to say that there are many more such enrichments that you can apply in text. From spatial to tags analysis to author analysis, all that stuff. What you then can do is you can start to put it all together and create a 360-degree view. All of that is packaged into a lovely architecture that we came up with. That is nothing rocket sciencey. Other people do similar things. I think the way we do it is a bit particular in that it is a really novel approach in the full text, unstructured domain. From data loading to data enrichment to this adaptive search component and then to the visualization of that. Now, this is all talk. So what about if I show you quickly how that works? And then we go and look at what Wells Fargo does with this. So, a little bit of a demo. I hope that works. Always a fun thing to do in life. So, what I have here is Scurry standalone. Web application, cloud-based, with no data. It's blank, right? Now, let's load some data. And the piece I took along here is not the Excel. So this is an Excel file that goes over some rows, and sorry for the pixel garbage that displays here, but essentially it is news about banks. With the simple thing of just a URL here from where this news type comes from. Right? And a bit of text here. I have not even an idea what it is. Now start to make sense of that. Start to visualize that. Start to analyze that as an example on as a case like Basel III. Basel III is the big word in banking because it requires all these banks to come up with a whole lot more of compliance elements to make sure that they don't fall foul with any public authorities. Now you can go and read that Excel, it's not fun, I tell you. Or you can do that as an example with us. So you have here many wonderful sources that you can import, one of them being Excel. The only thing I ever do is I'm gonna choose Excel file, which is this. You need to believe me on that one. It starts to load it. I say next. You can do a couple of tricks if you want. Say which field is what. I will omit all that. And now it starts to import, right? So takes a moment. While that's happening, I can maybe switch here to the next step, which is the enrichment step. The enrichment step is exactly what I showed you before. At the origin, we only have Excel, right? Now what we do here is we start to slice and dice that data into many meaningful dimensions. You have here a whole catalog of elements that we can now choose from search tagging to, as an example, recognize if anything of this here has anything to do with the New York Stock Exchange quoted company. It's a massively big library of such enrichments that you can apply or that you can program against. One of the little treasures here is that, as an example, you take your own CRM system. Most of the people overlook the fact that they have vast taxonomies within their companies. As an example, their CRM systems. Most people hate CRM systems, but it's a wonderful treasure trove of valuable information. You're going to see that again. So we do all these kind of things. For this level here, I chose about 4. Country detection, major banks, sentiment detection, we heard a bit about that this morning, topic detection, that's all included. If all went well, we have by now here a fully imported Excel that suddenly starts to be way more meaningful than before. As insofar that you can go through, we even loaded the pictures, which is not in the Excel. We link here to the original piece on Bloomberg in this case. And you can now start to slice and dice that information into any meaningful way. As an example, go in here, see what happened around the 20th of March. I read that stuff here as you wish in many different directions. You also have here a couple of these enrichments that we computed out, from where does this article come from, and all that stuff. And then you can start to build lovely dashboards. Here I did such a dashboard where we simply, as an example, test out the timeline of this news with a bit of the sentiment, with a bit of the comments regarding that. That's for starters. Right? Now I spoke about that Basel III thing. So let's look at that Basel III thing. What is Basel III? Any one of you knows? Doesn't matter. Let's look up on Wikipedia. This is Basel III. It's a voluntary regulatory framework that affects about any bank in the Western world. Now there could be a question like, from a compliance point of view, which of these elements here, if it's not just news, but say contracts, has anything to do with Basel III? Couldn't be a question, right? How would you do that normally? You would start now to frantically do keyword search and all that stuff. And keyword search is a lovely thing. I all created search, so I know how that works with local CH. But if you don't know what you look for, you don't find anything in Google or in local CH. One of the most overlooked features of full text search. You need to know what you look for, else you won't find it. Right? Now, Basel III is a vastly complex thing. So what about if I just could do this here? I simply copy this piece of text, go in here to that search field, and the only thing I ever do is I paste this text. What happens now is, and you saw that in real time, no jokes here, It's real time, no fakes and so. We took that text, we extracted the key features of that text without seeing that text ever before. It's like a digital fingerprint. And based on that digital fingerprint, I'm able to say which of these other elements here do affect or are closely related to that input text I have. That's the core novelty of our product. That's the core piece, where we also do have a number of patents around that nobody else has. The rest, what you saw before, is lovely packaging up of a number of elements that are standard in the industry, but relevant in the case I will now to go back to. Given the fact that time rushes, I'll go now back into presentation mode and tell you what, with this technology, you can do. That particular American bank is a large bank. Their wholesale division, that's essentially their corporate business, so they retail their solutions to large companies. Credit notes as an example, or credit facilities to buy equipment and all that stuff, is a vast division of that bespoke bank. And as it goes with large organizations, they over years start to collect many CRMs and many other systems. ECMs for storing contract information, other types of filers to store strategic papers and I don't know what, tons of systems. The bank today, prior to us entering the scene, in a key account team that is US-wide, so from the northern seaboard, eastern seaboard to northeast and Seattle, if the bank wants to know what we have done as a bank in, say, the last 30 days with a client around, say, credit notes, the bank technically knows. It's probably stored in one of those many systems. But it's essentially a research and rescue mission for the personal assistant of the key account manager to find out. That poor chap or that poor girl needs to literally parse all these different systems to find that piece of information about what has the bank done around credit notes in the last 30 days with, say, the company called ACME. That's a waste of talent, a waste of time, a waste of money. So what they came to us with when they saw what we do here is it possible to take all these different siloed data, start to aggregate them, start to analyze them, start to enrich them, and start to compute out certain key dimensions which affect their business, such as client engagement, such as escalation issues, such as a number of other dimensions. So what you saw before with the technology you saw, that's exactly what we did. So we aggregate today these different systems. We start to enrich the data. We start to compute some analysis on top of that. And the result of that is not a complex system, very important, but a system whereby an end user, a key account person, simply opens up, as an example, her CRM screen, her customer relationship management screen, and sees that analysis pre-computed already available in real time. What I show you here obviously is not live data. This is demo data, highly obfuscated, highly changed. I'll never be able to do that, of course, because all what we do here actually is not done within the Salesforce system. It's all done on-site, on-premise, in the US. But this shall serve as an example. So what you see as an example here over the whole key account team of that particular person, why do we know that? We know that because in the CRM system, obviously you have a role function element. So we know that XYZ key account manager is allowed to see this and this and this key account relationship. We can now show you as an example who are the top customers, who are the top attendees in meetings, who are the internal organizers. And we can automatically now start to compute out, as an example, what are the interaction themes that the bank discussed with their clients. What's the value of that for a key account? This type of work took them literally, them saying to us, weeks. Not for the whole key account team, but by each account. They have it now in real time. Other element, as an example, you can then obviously go and dive in and see other elements like, what have these interactions been about? Which products have you discussed? What you see here with foreign exchange or credit are just the product categories. You could now go and dive in and simply go and see actually the whole conversational thread around that conversation. And you also can break that down then on the individual relationship. So you can go and look at the relationship, where you see as an example on the relationship itself, what has the talk been all about? Has it been about pricing? Has it been about service issues? You see here also historical trends. Apparently there in 2013 was a hike. What was that hike about? Dive in and you're going to see it. So the key account team today knows in real time what it is all about. So coming to a bit of a perspective, why do they work with a small Swiss startup? They approached us in February 2014 after having been, what I told us, a bit in despair, looking around for solutions locally. Come on, this is a West Coast bank in San Francisco, or south of San Francisco, the mecca of technology. What they came to us with is, look, we have here this data set. We heard about you through a contact. Show us. That was the proof of concept phase that emerged. And then back in December 2014, we won this outright, which I'm proud about the team that I have the pleasure to work with. They selected us over a number of other mighty competitors. And now, in May 2014, internally the project name is Glue, a fitting name, I think. Glue things together. We start to roll this out for the first couple of hundred users. And over the course of the next 1.5 years, we're going to roll this out probably to about 10,000 users across the US. Now, why does a bank like that large bank chose us? The market that we are in, the solution I've been showing to you, is what Gartner coins is called a search-based data discovery solutions. That's the coin that Gartner uses for this. And that market is highly fragmented at this moment still. The BI market is kind of settled. You have a number of large players. We saw some of them today. Whereas this piece, what we do, is less settled. The very relevant piece is that the POC engagement showed them that we can do it. That we were able to do it. And extremely relevant, that's one of the biggest differences I realized when working with them compared to lovely Swiss banks, as an example, is they understand that by doing this, they get a real competitive advantage in the marketplace. And it's worth taking the risk of working with a startup that might not be around in 3 years and still do it. Whereas our lovely Swiss banks are always risk averse. Still to discover that they have potloads of unaccounted risks in their books. So, learnings, and I'm running a bit short of time, I'm coming to a conclusion. A large bank and a small startup are a match, at least in the US. Great thing. It's hard work, 6 hours, 9 hours time difference, keeps you busy at night. But it's also a fantastic opportunity to grow with a customer that trusts you even across the Atlantic, to deliver them a solution that's very unique to their needs. And obviously, for us as a company, it's a massive opportunity to grow outside Switzerland right from start. To jump over the Atlantic right from start. So from a business point of view, fantastic. And yeah, we have a few tricks up our sleeves, but I will omit this given the time. With that, I simply say thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thanks.
Thank you very much for this talk and very exciting view of the future, I hope. Are there questions?
Yeah.
How did you get in touch with Wells Fargo?
Wells Fargo approached us through a combination. At the end of the day, it's hard work multiplied by luck. They found us through a faraway acquaintance, I believe. We couldn't really reconstruct the channel, but we then had a chat with that project team at one stage, and they started a very vigorous review, scrutiny, called up partner, are these guys trustable, and all that stuff. So I think at the end of the day, it's hard work times luck, which was the reason why they started talking to us.
Other questions? Seems everything is clear, and probably all will start a similar business as you do.
Please do. Competition is good.
Let's thank.
Thank you, Andreas.
And hopefully we hear the next story very successful if you come through here.
Thank you, guys.
Our
Nice
next
afternoon.
speaker